This is Joe Mannis from Mindfire, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for our educational webinar today. And we've got a great speaker and a great presentation with lots of high-value information for you. So let's get through some of our housekeeping real quick so we can get started. So we're on the air, and you should be able to hear us and see the screen. So if you are having any difficulty, you can dial the number and hit option 2. The most often asked question during these webinars is, are we recording this? Absolutely. And do you get a copy of the slides? You absolutely do. So you can both listen to it and see the presentation material for future use or for team use in your own organization. And we do have a number of ways that you can communicate with us during today's session. First, you can raise your hand if you wanted to ask a live question, but the most preferred method is, of course, sending your questions through chat. And you can type those in the chat section, and we'll answer every question that you ask, time allowing. And if we don't get to all the questions during the session, we'll follow up with you personally with an answer to your question. So ask as many questions as you'd like. Our agenda for today is we're going to discuss how you can tailor design and implement custom solutions to meet the specific needs of your clients, making you a true strategic partner. We've got a couple different use cases. First, taking an operational nightmare and transforming it for a very nice company. How to take an event program and take it to the next level, and how to empower a sales organization, and how you'll own the customer for life in doing so. And of course, we'll have ample time for Q&A. Now, today's presenters, of course, Joe Mannis, yours truly, most of you know me, your host, and joining me today, Jason Quinn, Vice President of Marketing and Fulfillment Services at Edwards. Hey, Jason, how you doing today?
Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Going awesome. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your time and effort. All right. So, really, the focus for today's session is delivering custom solutions, how you can meet specific needs of your customers, leveraging technology and, frankly, multiple platforms in an integrated fashion to meet those very unique customer requirements. So with that, I'm going to bring Jason back. And welcome back, Jason. As I said, Jason is the Vice President of Marketing Services for Edwards in Des Moines, Iowa. And Jason, give us a little background on yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit about Edwards before we jump into our use cases.
Sure. Glad to be here today. I really enjoy doing these interactive presentations because I feel more like a peer to you all out there. Some of you may know me already just from my fulfillment background. But as Joe mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Fulfillment Services at Edwards, and that means a whole lot of things. We'll talk about Edwards in a second because that's pinned as usually a commercial printer, but we've been trying to change the industry perception of Edwards to encompass more of what we actually do and what my department handles to help enhance our traditional commercial print and mail services. And in my suite of services, I manage all of the traditional fulfillment, warehousing. Over here at the bottom of the page, you can see pretty well illustrates our entire suite of services. So we do fulfillment, distribution, warehouse, inventory management, as well as a bunch of integrated marketing solutions that may or may not dovetail into our existing customer base's print solutions. A lot of times what we try to do is, like many of you are trying to do, is become that full service marketing provider. And certainly my department's set of services help round that out and give us that perception to our clients. A little bit more about Edwards here. I came to Edwards 6 years ago to help them push this initiative a little bit further. We've been open since the 60s, and like a lot of traditional commercial printers that have weathered the storm of change, they just kept adding additional services on. And when I was actually working in the software industry, so prior to this, I was a consultant to printers looking to make the change to being marketing service providers, and also spent about 6 years on the software side working for fulfillment software and marketing software companies. And then prior to that, I was pretty much exclusively working in fulfillment. So kind of put all that together and decided to come back into this size company where I felt I could make a real impact. We're about a $10 million a year company, looking to grow a bit. And because we're in the Midwest, a lot of our clients are larger ag companies, and Des Moines is a real hub for financial services companies as well. So we have a pretty good smattering of clients across those two verticals. And being right at the center of the United States, we've really entered some interesting distribution opportunities as well. So this is a nice little slide. It sort of just encapsulates where my area is focused on, and we're usually either proactively trying to go out and establish what these new services are to our prospects, as well as our existing clients, to help them determine how they can maybe model and expand their services with us.
Awesome. Okay, so our first use case is going to talk about TurfWorks and a contact management solution that you created for them. So take it away.
Right. So before we even get into these three, I think what I want to talk about is that what Joe and I were, when we were picking and choosing what we wanted to talk about, I think what we wanted to look at is maybe some non-traditional ways to use some of the marketing tools that a lot of us use from the traditional direct mail response channel kind of activity, and custom tailor them, because it seems like that's what all of our clients are asking us to do these days, right? They're asking us to, like, well, you did this one thing, can you kind of help me get around the corner with this next solution? So a lot of these, all three of these cases involve standing clients or new clients that had to have a little bit of out-of-the-box thinking to help them get around their problem. So in this case, TurfWorks, who is like a golf course maintenance machinery rental company, leasing, I should say, they had a challenge of, they wanted to do a bunch of print and direct mail initiatives with us. We sat down and asked them why they were doing it. That's one of the first things that we do that's a differentiator, is ask them why, what are you trying to do? What's your result in this? And they were trying to expand their customer base. So they said that the thing that was the most difficult thing was trying to figure out how to sort out their data, and certainly the challenge here is migrating their existing customer database out of their antiquated business system. We figured that's what had to happen. They had to get out of their old green screen system and get all of the contact information out of there, and in some format for the director of marketing to be able to understand who are our current clients, okay? What are our profitable clients? A bunch of information basically to model those folks so they know who to go out and market to. So they said, well, how can you help us? And we said, well, first of all, we need to get that data out of there. So the next thing we did was come up with a solution to say, let's create a program where the first step is to go ahead and migrate the data over, and then figure out a way to create some action items against that data in order to continue to improve the quality of it and to model it so we can take additional steps. Okay. So this additional objectives obviously were, because they wanted to take this action, obviously we had to add categorization to their contacts, because imagine from an accounting standpoint what their data may look like. That's what we're talking about. They're talking about accounting records. We need to add marketing categorization, contact attributes. We need to profile these folks, right? That way we can then dissect that list and convert it into something that's actionable, something that their marketing department wasn't able to take, to meet that challenge. So design challenges, okay? So this is pretty straightforward. To provide easy access and update, maintain all contacts, we constructed a landing page that called up contacts by submitting a unique ID. Okay, so what that means is when we passed over all that accounting information for each company, there was a unique record, all right? We used the unique record and associated it as a PURL in Studio. We just happen to use Mindfire Studio, of course. So we made that the contact record unique ID. So the first task that the director of marketing had was, sales reps, we need you to go in and we need you to update all this contact information. The way you're going to do that is you're going to go ahead and put this contact ID that you're used to using into the system. It's going to pull up all this information in a very usable interface, and then you're going to apply any additional attributes that we're asking you to have and make these records current. Okay. The second challenge we had was once these sales reps started going in and doing this, they of course don't always have access to this customer ID from the accounting system. So of course we had to allow them to search. Well, we kind of ran into a situation where you couldn't do that inside of MindFire. Talk to the developers, our developer talked to them, and we actually then leveraged the MindFire API to build our own search engine to interact with the landing page and really end up with a better custom solution than we had even set out to accomplish. So let's go look at how this works so it makes a little more sense. So here we go. This is what we came up with. This is just a page that we developed that's hosted inside of MindFire. So you see the customer ID to the left. That's the number that that is relevant to the sales rep. If they happen to know it, they'd go in, hit submit. Just like a Pearl, this recognizes this particular contact record. In this case, the contact means 3 different people at a golf course. Okay, so we have a superintendent, a general manager, another comments about that. And we diced up a little bit of design came into this that we pulled from some stuff we learned on the direct marketing side to make things easier for folks. It's like, sales reps aren't always the highest level users, so we want to make it very easy to use. So we broke it up into 3 sections here. The second tab we had was the company information, and this is a very dynamic page, and just because we're doing a PowerPoint, you can't quite see everything, but we built a lot of if-then statements in to say, if a company has this particular attribute that's selected, then go ahead and expand some more questions. So first thing we did was allow them to suggest a new sales rep. It showed us the current sales rep that's already in there. And that would allow the director of marketing to get a message after the submission was done to say, hey, they've requested to change the sales rep in the system, please do so. At the bottom section, basic territory, and this is information surely that we need to help dissect into future campaigns. But right here where it says business type or territory or class, those are programmed, so if you select some of those, it prompts the sales rep to add additional information. Okay.
Hey, Jason, just a quick point that add on something you said, because you said this has a lot of if-then conditional questions. So,
right.
A well-designed solution for a customer-facing solution is one that really looks simple like this, but
right.
all the heavy lifting's happening behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we went through, this took a little while. This took a lot of workflow diagramming of who's going to be entering into the system, how do we not want to log jam them or get them to opt out of it, because a lot of these people are new to using an online system. A lot of them are older sales reps that just don't even want to get in here. So part of it was we had to really sell this to that team to make it easy, easy to use. This third tab is just some lease information. This is read-only. We added this feature because once they started adopting this and then they started to understand how easy it was to access information as opposed to having to go into their antiquated CRM or accounting package, they wanted to just make proactive sales calls. So they're coming in here, updating information, and then also looking at this lease information. I'm sure a lot of you are saying this looks a lot like something that might be in Salesforce. Yes, it's exactly just like that, but that was too big of a burden for them to bite off. Their challenge was, look, we don't want to burden the sales reps with too much. Marketing needs more consistent, correct data. How do we get that without having to get into a whole new platform? And our answer was, let's put together this little workflow to allow your sales reps to interact live in real time with the data online. So we're able to really bypass having to jump through a huge learning curve and a purchasing curve with the client. This is just the example real quick of how we developed the API to allow, if we didn't have the customer information, how we could go and search. Essentially what's happening is we host this page at Edwards. It looks the same to the outside user. They don't know any different. They simply, in this instance, they put hills in there, and obviously just pulls up anything that that matches that in the database. It's calling back into MindFire and saying, hey, show us all the account IDs on the far left here that match this attribute we're trying to match up with. Once we put this together, this really closed the loop with getting all the sales reps on board, because now there was no way they couldn't interact with it. And quite honestly, it went from seemed like a pain in the butt to them most of the time to now they love, they really like using this, and we're getting more suggestions about how to improve it. And we have quite a few suggestions on what we could do, proactively out of this, like send collateral, do some other things as well.
Yeah, I love it. Great job. That's neat.
Joe, I don't know if you want to introduce this at all, or whether you want me to just, talk straight into this. I guess I'll just talk about it. This is actually an interesting little piece of technology that, there's sort of the back end of MindFire Studio, if any of you guys are used to using that. There's obviously the pages that we build for our customers, right? This has been a great asset for us to deliver to our director of marketing or company champion. That's a CRM Lite, okay? This allows us to be able to assign a permission in the back end of MindFire and have, like, the director of marketing comes in here to have a very high level ability to come in and harvest, query and harvest contact information based on any attribute that we have in MindFire. Right here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Okay, I think there's like 30 or 40 different columns of information, maybe more, per record. They're able to go in and adjust what they want to see, how to sort it, and in a mouse click, just export this data for their own use. Here's a use case example. Instead of us having to wait forever for a client to figure out who they want to do an outbound activity for, she basically comes in here, does her query, sorts through her data, exports a file, sends that to us, tells us what she wants to do with it, and we're done. So weeks of waiting turns into, minutes of activity on her side. This took a little bit of training. Within 2 days, she was calling us back saying, this is so fantastic, I no longer have to manage any of this on spreadsheets. I just dump all my information into MindFire, and off I go.
Yeah, so let me just, for those of you that aren't familiar with the MindFire world, first of all, all of the reporting information is available in the technology. So whenever you're running a program, we're capturing all that and provide you the opportunity to present it in different formats for you and for the customer via web as well. What Jason just spoke of is a CRM Lite, which, as he said, gives you a query that allows you to then query what data you want to pull out specifically in a presentation form for a specific use case. And that's really what Jason and his team created with partnership with the CRM Lite tool to make it super easy for the marketing executive to get what she needs on demand anytime. So beautiful job.
And it was awesome. it was a nice change to be able to deploy something like this that, all of you guys were probably similar like me, where, your clients ask reports. You build all those reports, and it never really satisfies the basic need, which is just a way for them to easily get their hands on the data in an open format. Everybody knows how to use Excel. So out there, who's a director of marketing, I would assume, who's a legitimate, prospect or customer, they can go in here and, and just pull what they need down and then work in it in their native format on their desktop, manipulate it, kick it back. So it takes us out from having to have a, customer contact when it's not, necessary. If the client wants to get in at 2 in the morning and pull this down and work on it, well, they don't have to make a phone call to us to say, please export this report and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and if you're an existing customer and you have more questions on CRM Lite, just shoot me an email. You'll see you probably already have it, but you'll see my contact information at the end, as well as Jason's, and we'll get you hooked up with a team member that spends some time with you on it, okay? So kind of what, the takeaway from this success, Jason, why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, well, we really like we want to model more business after this particular relationship, because they originally saw us as just a commercial printer. They knew we did some other stuff. Like I said, and when I prefaced this whole conversation, we asked them why they want to do a direct mail and print campaign and why we were bidding on it. Since this has all gone down, the director of marketing and VP of sales just basically said, you know what, we're going to stop quoting out these jobs, shopping out these jobs, print jobs to folks. Edwards already has the data. Why aren't we just printing and mailing and doing the fulfillment right from them directly? You know, everything's in-house. So it changed our relationship for sure. Certainly, they went ahead and asked us to do a newsletter, these direct mail programs, special email programs. Now what's happening is they're going, oh, wait. Those clients, those customers of ours that are in this particular category, in this particular whatever, I've gone ahead and pulled the list out. Can you guys just send an email blast to them? Sure, no problem, done. We do that in Mindfire, off it goes, everything's tracked in there. So it seems to snowball once you get these folks into a program like this. Even if you don't have commercial print services and you do something different, at least you have the data. And I think a lot of us are learning that the more you have control of the data and the more that you understand how to converse with your client about that data, the more opportunities are going to come out of that, okay? Yes, they're dependent. So at the bottom we say they're more dependent on Edwards, and we basically have been stripping all the other vendors out of their life. But as opposed to saying dependent, we might also say that, you know, we have a relationship with them where they trust us and they like to consult with us on what they do. So I feel like that's their perception of it is like, we know they're dependent. We like that because we've kind of got their claws, and we got their claws in them. But a more positive spin from their side might be like, hey, we've got this one vendor. We can go to them for all kinds of stuff, and they can trust us to know where their boundaries are, what they can't do, what they can do. But they give us honest insight on our data, what happens at the back end of our campaigns, and help us forecast what we might be able to do.
Yeah, beautiful. And we see that with a lot of our excellent customers like you that are offering these type of programs that really are out of box and take the customer to the next level. They rely on them more because you position yourself as more than just a print service provider. You're now a marketing or a program service provider. Hey, there's a couple quick questions I want to dive into. I normally don't do this, but because this is a little different use case than a lot of our attendees might be comfortable with or familiar with, I want to just take a couple of these questions. So first of all, Sean from the UK, thanks for joining us. I know it's late over there. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Chris Hyde asked a question. He said, Jason, are you using Mindfire as a CRM, or are you tying this to another CRM as well?
In this case, great question. In this case, it's acting as a entry-level CRM. Like I was mentioning before, yeah. So Turfworks had on their horizon, they wanted maybe Salesforce to manage all their salesmen's activity, right? But they didn't want to take that leap yet to deal with that whole entire culture of rearranging how sales happens. But you know, they needed some way to get that data online for the sales reps to interact with it. So I would say it's a hybrid situation. Basically, we gave web-based access in the form of a low-level CRM through landing pages to access all the marketing data. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that's perfect. And Brad,
like Joe said, if you guys have questions offline, email me, and I'll be glad to talk with you guys and expand a little bit more on each of these scenarios and why we chose to do this. It was certainly a well thought out process where we said, why don't you guys go ahead and put Salesforce in, we can engage with it. Like, no, too complicated. We need to get this marketing initiative off for 2015, but how are we going to accomplish this? And it started off with, well, if you send us some spreadsheets, we can make changes to it. We're like, no way. We can make this way better. Let's get everybody online.
Yeah, and real quick, one more question, then we'll get back on track. And Brad Elmhurst, great question, said Edwards ended up controlling the data for the client. Yeah, absolutely. And then he also said, using Mindfire Studio, it sounds as if the data was managed at Edwards, not at Turfworks, correct? Or did
correct.
Turfworks? Yeah, that is correct.
Correct. And so, you know, it's kind of an easy sell these days when you say that we have a cloud-based system. It seems to, you know, provide them with a little bit of trust that it isn't sitting locally at Edwards, and the fact that it's web-based and, you know, the director of marketing can never get to her database outside of her building. So this really, the selling point for us was, hey, yeah, if we host it, anybody can get to it anytime, and not only that, but it's secure.
Yes. Hey, Ben, thanks for joining us. Great to see you with us today. And answer your question is, he asked, is CRM Lite an extension available by Mindfire? or is it something Edwards developed? It's an extension offered by us, Ben, but obviously Jason took that and used it as as part of his overall program design. So he did some cool stuff with the CRM Lite. All right, so that's it for some of the questions specifically that, but I didn't want to get too far down the road and not address those questions so you felt like there was a disconnect, okay? All right, so now let's move on to a quick coaching tip. We heard the discussion of pearls, and believe it or not, I've had a couple conversations with some of our customers who've asked, in my world, pearls don't seem to be as effective, or they aren't registering with my customers. And my point to that would be that, I don't see that. It's just simply not true. There are 7 high-value deliverables for marketing programs that can only be achieved by leveraging personalized landing pages. And if you'd like to see my document that I use with marketing executives that go through these 7 deliverables, send me an email, and I'd be happy to share that with you. And just kind of as a drill down on that, additionally, typically, the overall results of the programs leveraging pearls with other multimedia and multi-touch program elements significantly outperform traditional marketing approaches your customers use. So take a look at the document, and then if you want to have further conversation, see some use cases, I'm happy to do that. All right.
And I think one of the things we wanted to throw in there too, Joe, was just from an Edwards perspective, we're always trying to go out. One of the reasons we have to make calls with folks is to try to modernize their perception of what a pearl is. A lot of people just are stuck in that it's www.jason.quinn/event, and to them it's a URL. That's what it means to them. They don't understand that giving personalized access to a page to truncate workflow is really the entire concept. And that TurfWorks deal might even be number 8, right, Joe? It's another example of we used a web personalization concept to streamline handling a fairly complex process, but make it simple for the end user and make it simple for the owner of the data, right?
Absolutely. Yep. All right. So now let's go to our second use case. And again, Wellness Brands Portal, an integrated program solves a problem. So Jason, let's talk about the challenge that Wellness Brands had.
Okay, let's talk a little about Wellness Brands first. Wellness Brands is, and we'll have a shot of their page in a minute, but Wellness Brands is the manufacturer of a sports nutrition supplement called the Right Stuff. They were already a standing fulfillment client, so we were storing, packing, and delivering materials for them for both their B2C and B2B business. B2B meaning sample product, so potential distributors and whatnot. We had this very challenging situation going on the fulfillment side, which was we had this nightmare of having to take a request from the sales reps within Wellness Brands and fulfill the order. That's easy. We use a fulfillment package called Direct Response. The order can go in, no big deal. But they wanted to create a custom letter for each fulfillment order. And that was causing a huge manufacturing problem for really is what it was on the backside. To have these letters produced, get the customer service reps to send those into the warehouse to have those matched. We didn't want to implement our higher level custom web to print application. We felt it was just too heavy-handed for what was needed. So what we did is we kind of stepped back and we said, look, we need to create a solution that handles all this stuff upstream. So it handles a request and interprets that request into something that our systems can digest and handle instead of trying to build the production around the existing software platforms. Okay? So for people that are doing fulfillment, this one's kind of for you. All right. So here's what we did. We took Mindfire, or any landing page you could do this, and we said, look, let's stick a landing page upstream. Let's just make it real simple. Someone doesn't need to go through a 5-step shopping cart to order 3 things that they need to send to someone they just met at a trade show, right? They just want to say, I want item A, B, C. Here's who they are. Let's grab some, attributes about them, and also based on that, let's send them a letter. Okay. So we set up a landing page, and then we leveraged the trigger system in Direct Response, the trigger system in Mindfire to trigger events in Direct Response, okay, which is the fulfillment system. And Direct Response in turn, because it has nice strong APIs, push some information back to Mindfire. Mindfire said, thank you very much. We've got an order created. Now, based on that survey information, let's go ahead and shoot the letter information down to our document processing software that's locally hosted here. And that actually just dropped down to an FTP folder that gets watched. All right, this is the Right Stuff page. What about them? Okay, here's the meat and potatoes. This is no big deal. First, you look at what am I looking at. Let's just break it down by these blue headers. Sales rep comes in. They've got some order information, right? Talks about some stuff that's relevant to sales and has nothing to do with the order. Contact information, inventory information, nothing sexy here, right? And shipping information at the bottom. But if you look down the far right-hand side, it's got letter type, and it talks about, there's a drop-down, and that would have like 20 different types of letters. So what we do is consume all this information, all right? Right now we're in Mindfire, right? So let's talk about this workflow diagram. And honestly, this is how we live our life here. If we can't workflow diagram stuff, we know we're going to have a problem. All right, so here we go. This is the workflow. Up in Mindfire with a landing page, right? Client submits an order. The first thing that happens is it pushes that order to direct response. And this all happens in a matter of a finger snap. Direct response accepts that order. Once it accepts that order, boom, it sends back an order ID to Mindfire. Okay, we'll come back to this direct response workflow in a minute, all right? So we're talking about what is the customer experience. The customer just goes, hey, I get a thank you page and it says I have an order ID, right? Boom. So first goal we've achieved is eliminating the shopping cart. Shopping cart's gone. They're ready to order something new. They can just sit here and key in and key in and key in and key in orders, right? In real time, those orders are now in direct response. There's no export daily thing that has to go on or anything. It's just real time going into the fulfillment system. Okay, that's important because a lot of times we have to turn these orders pretty quickly, and we don't want any kind of manual interaction between the fulfillment system. Next step. Okay, they also get a follow-up email, sort of an afterthought, but that's a trigger. Just as soon as you get a confirmation, also send an email. Third trigger, okay, so we've got a thank you page, email. Third trigger is this. It's a data trigger. So we've put logic in using the standard stuff in Mindfire to just basically say, if these things have all been completed, then drop this CSV file that has basically everything that we need to do to produce a letter. And the bottom section is just, this is actually, I pulled this document for Joe and for you guys because this is what we have to go and the CSRs have to troubleshoot and order because these are all the steps. It gets dropped to a watched folder. That folder consumes the file. It produces some files to be printed, and the CSR is alerted when these are ready to print. Could we automate this more? Yeah, totally. We're just in sort of a phase right now where we're just taking it manually before we fully automate it over to one of our digital presses, all right? As soon as those letters are ready, because this could be coming off an iGen just as it could with all this manual stuff, okay? So that stuff comes off. Meanwhile, in the warehouse over here in the blue section, they've been doing their normal job. They got an order, they're fulfilling it. All that happens is they have a line item for a non-inventory item that says warehouse, there it says wellness letter. They just know some letter is going to come over. And because we passed the order ID over way in the beginning, the reason why we did that is so that we could put that order ID from direct response in the data to carry it all the way over to loop into the back process. So down here in the warehouse person can go, yep, this letter matches this order, all right? Beautiful. And that's the whole process. This saved us an incredible amount of time. And what it helped us do was, well, here we go with some requirements to do this. Simply, my first thing was that it allows us to take everything that we already have and just rearrange it into something that's more optimal. And not have to go into an overblown solution to solve a simple problem. A lot of you that have letter shops out there and fulfillment, you can do it like this. You don't have to have everything completely a web-based print management system to do stuff like this. This is going down and being used through our letter shop software without having to name drop anything. So anyway, it was flexible. We implemented my philosophy of trying to cut out as much labor as we can. And what we've learned is, now we've got a model we can go out and sell. I can go to, upsell doing letters now and know that I can, the industry is, allowing us to have X amount of dollars for this stuff, and I can do it for much cheaper than I would have if I would have run it through one of my web print softwares. Okay, there's no proofing, there's nothing else. It just needs to come out, get ripped, get produced. So, as far as recommendations, Joe, did you want me to elaborate on that, or did?
Well, again, we talked a lot about a lot of things from your experience on the software side, so we can save that for later. That's fine.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
Okay, so we kind of already covered this with the results. They're happier with it. They don't have, we had to incentivize them a bit. We changed our pricing as well. We said no more emailing us or calling us about things because we're going to add a charge if we have to go on a landing page and enter that. And that was handled on the fulfillment system because we can determine, the origin of the order. But once we did that, and they knew what kind of results they were going to get. Like if you want an order to get out and you wanted to make service on it, it needs to go through this channel. So here's the other takeaway, okay, is that they're asking to put more and more marketing-related information that's being collected by the sales reps on here. So where do you think that's going to head? That's going to head to us doing, additional proactive marketing-based distributions with them. Okay.
Beautiful. Yep. All right. So this leads us to another coaching tip that I hear from customers all the time, and based on some of the questions we saw today, it becomes even more important. Most of your customers, just like Jason's, have multiple platforms in place to meet their business needs. In most cases, they want the ability to link one platform to another to optimize program results and gain critical data, insight, and information from the integrated solution. I mean, that's all Jason's been talking about today. Now, let me show you another example of an integration. This is a marketing automation program in the studio linked to Salesforce. Now, a lot of folks in the industry think that if you have a customer that has Salesforce, it's just plug and play. No, each customer uses their Salesforce solution unique to their company. It's tied to their sales and marketing processes. So again, you have to have a platform that makes it easy to connect. So here we have a typical marketing program, target audience, outbound channels, email, direct mail, etc. Drive them to the microsite where we gather marketing intelligence, and then we're going to gather some critical survey information as part of that microsite. The contact, in this example, timeline for purchase, their current need and pain points. With that data, we have the Salesforce trigger that we're going to go ahead and find the matching contact in Salesforce, and we're going to go ahead and update that contact information at the account level with the marketing intelligence information that we gathered in the marketing program driven by the Mindfire solution or the marketing automation solution. And then finally, we'll go ahead and outbound that collected data and match the information, the Salesforce account, back to the contact in Mindfire, and we're ready for the next iteration of updating it in the contact level with the now profile information, interest level, any goals achieved, ready for the next outbound marketing touch. So we just continue that nurturing process and take that prospect based on their unique requirements and start to nurture them with the appropriate information. So here's an example of two platforms, the Mindfire platform, working with another platform, the Salesforce platform, in a fully integrated manner. Again, that's all Jason's been talking about today, is how you take technology and align it. You want to comment anything else on that, Jason?
No, other than that, this is just what we've been doing more day in, day out with each customer and sitting down with them and discussing this very openly about how this works. Because the more you talk with them about it, my thought is a lot of times you get these workflows in front of people, it changes the conversation. You're not just presenting, you're discussing, and you're saying, what is different about the workflow, the way that I perceive it, as opposed to the way it actually is when you're doing a prospecting call. And then when you're moving more into relationship call, then you're hashing things out about, hey, let's change things based on our new information or how this particular program went. And it gives you a way to tweak and adjust things as you gain more intelligence on what's going on, because we know things change. That's the other thing as well.
Yeah. And so, what we find from our top performing customers is, you have to have a platform in place that's capable of meeting today's customer needs. And in that platform, you've got to have data extract tools, flexible APIs, and a variety of apps necessary to facilitate the interaction between the various platforms. Just one final use case, where you have a typical multi-channel program drive into the personalized website. But in this example, we have a payment app that's connected to the Mindfire platform and collects the payment, in this example, not-for-profit donations in real time, really important not-for-profits, and then puts out a challenge via Facebook and Twitter to other alumni. Hey, I made my challenge donation today. What about you? When are you going to do yours? So again, you can see platform to platform example. All right, that leads us to our third use case with Jason today, and that's the Iowa Immunization Coalition. And this is all about more than just a simple event marketing program.
All right, so that's a good intro to look at that last slide with the workflow, because it's very similar to what we ended up with. Let me talk a little bit about this. You know, this is obviously a nonprofit organization related around immunization. Now, their challenge coming to us, you know, this marketing opportunity, the first bullet is correct in a way, because this person came to us to ask us about how much would it be to print invitations and mail those out to a bunch of attendees to our event. Okay, immediately that sales reps know, like, if something like that happens, they have to come over and grab me, for better or worse, for me to come over and try to elaborate with the customer about why are you doing this. So my investigative process, I found out, like, she's like, well, I'm glad you're asking me, because you know, there's so much to this, and you could tell right away that she was stuck in between, you know, my web development company wants to help me do registration online, and my marketing company is saying do this. And I said, okay, well, let's just pick up the pieces that are there and let me understand what you're being faced with right now. Okay, so we started doing our consultative approach right off the bat. Yes, we will give you a quote on your print and mail. That's great. But let's also figure out what else you're challenged with to figure out whether we can even do something or not. All right? A lot of times we just point people in the right direction and say, hey, we have another vendor you might want to use for this other thing that we don't do. Okay? So let's move on to the next deal here. Okay, so talked a little about this. Basically, our friend Lori over at Immunization Coalition is, you know, she's a one-person department with a lot of these nonprofit, you know, environments. If they're medium-sized or small or state-run or whatever, they might just have one person who's in charge of that particular segment, but they may have a lot of responsibility. Similar to TurfWorks, one director of marketing, you know, 15 salespeople, right? So the challenge was to improve the overall process. So once we got in, we dug our heels and we started, you know, getting her to show us some cards about the rest of the program. Then we were able to assess that we needed to help her improve this, because it was just a mess. She didn't have any of the dots connected, and every single step was going to be very segmented and very augmented. And we also wanted to just get some response, any kind of tracking on the whole entire marketing activity, because we thought if we could just start tracking something, like if we could just track the responses, or if someone hit a landing page, and you know, all the basic stuff that a lot of you already track. Some of these folks don't know how to tie that into something as basic as a mailing. So we said, look, here's the deal. We'll take on the mailing. We'll take on the printing. Let's just ease you into this, and it was very low-hanging fruit for us. So we're like, we'll give you this really discounted price for landing pages. Honestly, we did it for cost, because we knew once we reeled her in, she wasn't ever going to leave this. That was our guess. And guess what? If she did, so what? She got to experience it, and maybe we learned she's not a very good prospect for us. Anyway, the solution was we ended up executing a program with a direct mail piece, okay, that included a PURL and a URL, because we were targeting two different segments, and in each of those segments, there might be non-solicited folks that catch wind of this via any kind of other advertising, okay? So let's talk about the two channels, web and direct mail. Okay, a lot of people go to the website, and a lot of people may get at the mailer and still go, I don't know what this PURL is for, I want to go to the website. Great. So what we did is, on their web page, we went in and helped build out the page, so it gives a little information about it's hard to read this, but we help design this page on the left-hand side. We actually manage this portion for them. And it allows whether you're an attendee or an exhibitor and a sponsor to go in and either right there download a submission form to enter, or so they can pay via mail. We're tracking that. Okay, that's just Google Analytics. And then with the registration pages, if you click on that, you're actually going to go to a open-ended registration as opposed to a Pearl. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so keep that in mind about open registration versus targeting. So they may have received this piece. They may have said, nope, I don't want to go to the Pearl. But if they do want to go to the personalized page, again, rethinking what a Pearl is, we like to use this format, and it's been really successful for us to not have abandons. Notice the URL just says info. We've created that subdomain form, info.immunization.org/conference. Okay, so and that's actually this is a mock-up, but it's their actual URL. So if people are used to using it, they trust it, and we just added the subdomain up front. Then to shorten it and make it less of a chance of abandonment or failure, we got the code down there in that particular print font, so they always know whether it's a capital I or a 1 or whatever. They just use that code. Boom, enter the code into the URL. And let's go to the next slide, which is, simple page, matches the mailer. We didn't do the design, we just did the layout. So all we did was code this in. We put in the code. Guess what happens? You've all seen stuff like this before. You come to a registration page, and here, obviously, it recognizes me, asks me all the registration information. What's really cool is that we just rolled in the payment app from Mindfire in here, so it's a one-page registration with payment. This is just exactly like that thing we saw before with the right stuff, right? Except for it's got purchasing on it. So it's a one-page, kind of like an order request with payment on the backside. All right, that ties in. She was originally tying her to her PayPal. That wasn't working well because of her relationship with PayPal. We just hooked it up to our authorized.net. Boom, no problem. We're off and running and taking registrations. Okay. This is to step back. Remember, we're just talking about if you come to the website and you're non-solicited, maybe you are already in the database. So one of our problems we run into across all of our customers is duplicates. I know a lot of you that do direct mail are always like, geez, deduplicating stuff can be a pain, and sometimes the onus comes on us even though we're not really the ones, right, that start the problem. So in this case, what we do is we ask these 4 pieces of information, and if Mindfire finds a match, it pulls up the existing information. Okay, that's a lot of matching that's going on there. So we develop those rules with them. One of the things we can do with each of our clients is sit down in the beginning and go, how do you want to proactively deduplicate your contacts? So we can recognize, what do we need to recognize about them that's unique? It may just be this basic contact information. It may be some sort of personalized ID they already have, like an account number or something. So based on whether it recognizes you or not, it just does one of 2 things. It either just goes ahead and creates a new contact, or it supplies all of your contact information like in the last page we saw. All right. This is our internal shot of Mindfire, just like Joe was showing before. First thing I want to point out is this is exactly what you see is what you get. So if when I switched over to this platform, this is one of the reasons I did it, because my developer needed a flexible, some kind of flexible palette to be able to build these campaigns that was a nice hybrid between, hey, there's some out-of-the-can stuff, out-of-the-box stuff, but it's not canned so tightly that you can't grow out of it. Some of the other platforms that we had were very constricting. They were very user-friendly to a layman user, but anybody that's used to doing any kind of basic program development, it always seems like you're trying to, you end up cutting corners for things. In this essence, we have a block for every single activity that's happening. We have inbound activity. We have some triggers set up. We've got outbound stuff laid out here, okay? One of the most important things about this whole screenshot is the tabs at the top that say 2015 conference and conference, okay? If you notice up to the left. What's the deal is that when we went to do the 2015 one this year, so 2014 was the first year, all I did was copy and paste the previous workflow and go in and update anything within this workflow that we needed to achieve. And there's a couple little tweaks and twists, but we have a snapshot of the old workflow, and right beside of it is the new one, the new live campaign. Very, very easy to manage. And, you know, there's some complexities of learning it, but once we got past that, we're so much more flexible. If none of you guys are familiar with this, this is just the back end of Studio. So we saw, what have we seen so far? We've seen like the client side. We've seen CRM Lite, right? Seen some landing pages. This is sort of the back end where we can go in and help troubleshoot things with the customer. She doesn't want to have access to stuff. She just wants to call up and go, for instance, this one record's highlighted in the bottom. It says Amanda Hall. Amanda Hall said she went in and she paid, but she didn't get a confirmation email for whatever reason. You know, who knows what it could be. It's probably something in her, like she has it's going to the spam filter in her email. We look it up. We say, hey, boom, she's paid. We have all this payment information on her. Here's her Pearl. She has a problem putting her Pearl in. We've got that Pearl ID. All this information is easily accessible, filterable, whatever you want to do with it. So servicing the client became very easy. And this is actually where we gained a lot of respect with the client, because she could just come to us when all the problems started hitting the fan, and we had all the information that she needed in real time. So here we go, results. Productivity went up, costs went down. Productivity on her end, I mean, basically she can depend on us to just take care of everything when she needs it. Her board loved it. They really were impressed by, you know, at first they were what? They were unhappy about our print costs, because we're not going to come down on those. We should charge to do our print. But what they were blown away by was, well, wait, you got all these other services? So the conversation moved from the cost being associated with that to, wow, what a great value we had for this entire relationship with this campaign. So, you know, Lori went ahead in '86 to, you know, kicked out a couple of vendors, and so now we have the sole relationship bearing with her. And actually, a lot of times we have to say, no, we don't do that, but we'll find someone to do this particular thing for you. And this year, she didn't come in with just like the other cases, she didn't come in this time with, here's an RFP, we'd like you to request to fill da-da-da. It wasn't that. It was, hey, we're doing this. What do I need to send you to get this project up and running? How much do you think it's going to cost? Okay, great. Let's just get rolling on it. Totally different perception. And I'm telling you, we're doing this at a larger level. This is a smaller company, so it's easier to talk about, but it's actually happening more when we're getting divisions of companies and they have their own independent budgets, and they'd rather just, you know, roll with us and try to go through corporate to do things. This is helping them in that way as well.
Yeah, great job. You've earned the right because of the results you generated for them. You know, we've got so many good questions. I'm going to skip through these because I think they'll be answered. So let's go ahead and dive into the Q&A. And also, just FYI for everyone as we dive into the questions, but if anybody's going to the Podiapp Forum this year in Las Vegas, May 11th to the 13th, let's meet. There's my email. Send me an email. We'll set up a meeting and we can expand on these conversations that Jason's done such a wonderful job of positioning. So let's go ahead and dive into some of these questions. And Mackenzie, if you want to jump in, if there's any really hot ones, I see we've got a lot of good ones that are here. So if you got any that you really like Jason to jump on while I look through some of these questions here in the next minute or so.
Yeah, I think that there was a few questions surrounding how people were being charged for these sorts of campaigns. So from Edward's perspective, are they charging them ongoing, or, you know, what's the cost structure around it?
Right. So let's take a look at all three of these. We had two that are we look at programs versus projects. Our whole company seems to be on one side of the fence in either way. So with the last one that we saw, you know, there's a specific timeline to the start and the end of that, right? So we think about, let's roll up the pricing and put it in with thinking about a direct mail or direct marketing event. You know, there's a definite beginning, start, you know, end to that process. So we build that all into, that's how we charge, versus the other two situations, which are more fulfillment oriented in concept because they're ongoing. They pay a monthly fee, okay, for us to maintain their data. It seems to be one of those charges that everybody just sort of is like, whatever. They seem to just pay for. If you're storing something in a cloud nowadays, people are just, okay, that's fine, I'll pay for that. We have to get back, sometimes we get feedback, negative feedback on nickel and diming them, quote unquote, for transactions, but we say, hey, look, we want to make sure that every time we take in For instance, with the wellness brands thing, there's an order associated with each transaction, right? Creates a transaction. So in that sense, we put together that platform for free and then change. Remember I told you earlier, I said, hey, we had to go back and say, we're changing your pricing, so if you don't use this automation that we put together, we're going to have to charge you extra. So that's all handled in the fulfillment pricing. So and it's great questions, honestly, because we deal with that internally. I know this afternoon we have a meeting to talk about an RFP we have to do and how to dice up the pricing between which side. So I'd be glad to elaborate that. If you have a particular scenario you want to discuss, I wouldn't mind talking about it with you. But program versus project, and then breaking down what are the monthly program fees, or how do I position the setup fees and the composition of the marketing program within a project fee.
Yeah, if you're a MindFire customer, I've got a 2-page document that will really help you with setting the pricing, and I've got also a proposal template that has come from our customers that we've enhanced a little bit, so don't hesitate to reach out. There was a good question here from Jeff on what if the customer wants to use their own internal email system. That's not a problem, Jeff. You know, we can help them with that. We have many customers that are doing small to large programs where the customer insists on using their own email. The only downside to that is there's a way to bring that tracking information in, but it's so much more eloquent if you have that ability to show the dashboard with all the email data, you know, all in one system. So we really should talk about why they feel they want to do that. But the simple answer is we could certainly help them.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
A lot of these questions are ones that were duplicate questions and answered before, so maybe you want to dive into some of those ones that you had written before.
Okay, but have all the folks, you know, not all of them may be aware of the question, right?
Well, I mean, the pricing one, you know, lots of them were about the CRM Lite, which you answered.
Yep. Okay. All right, then, but first of all, here's Jason and Joe's contact information. So if you have any questions in any area, shoot us an email. And now let's dive back up here with Jason real quick. A couple other questions. Jason, you know, based on your ongoing success with the varied customer programs, what do you have planned for this year's activities, taking it to the next level?
Well, we're an ongoing thing that we've been doing now over the past few years that we'll continue doing this year is continue to bring case studies from one client to another relevant client. A lot of times we have to convert, obviously, those into some sort of vanilla version so we don't have to worry about any kind of branding issues, you know, say from one ag seed company to another. Obviously, you have to make it generic, but talk about solutions, go back and proactively discuss, you know, try to open up the door to look at what other things, if we don't have a relationship with someone that's as deep as we have with some of these people, like with the right stuff, you know, we just have ongoing consulting with them. We plan what we're doing throughout the year with them. We have, you know, usually some insight into what their marketing agenda is. But for new folks, you know, we want to try to get in there and open the door a little bit.
Great. What do you, on this one, as far as your program evolution, you know, you're doing some really remarkable things. I can't thank you enough for sharing, you know, the details today. But when you look back a couple of years, you know, where do you see your customer programs, you know, as they evolve over the last several years? You know, what do you really see there?
Here's the deal. It seems like the longer we know someone, the weirder and more unique the things are that we do for them. But those make our relationship with them more special and more unique because they usually come to us with something that they've picked up from some other place, like a peer has done something or an agency has done something for them. So it's usually to us a very generic attempt to use automated marketing, right? or fulfillment or whatever it may be. And the more that we know them and the more we do these programs, the more that we see that they just say, we want to accomplish this with this much information, what can we do? So I'd say that we've gained some relationships, so that's how our programs evolve. They seem to they become more and more organic as we get to know who we service more. And I think the other thing in general is that our prospects seem to be more educated, which is great. I think that our prospect base is becoming more aware of what our industry as marketing service providers can do, but they're still, I think, a few years behind.
Yeah, they're looking for help, and they're looking for partners like you to help them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Last question, which I'm sure everybody on the call that's still here, and thanks for staying with us, folks. We're almost 1-2 minutes away. When you think in terms of number one challenge when working with your customer, what's the number one challenge you face today?
That's easy because it's based on the last question, and that's giving them a modern perception of what it is that we do and educating them on what we could do if we just started talking. So even with existing customers or whatever, I mean, it's just updating their perception of what it is that what we do and how we can service them. So that's an ongoing challenge.
Awesome. Okay, so again, here's some contact information. If you want to get with Jason, it's down there, jason.quinn@ega.com. Jason, I can't thank you enough. You did a great job of illustrating some non-traditional approaches, yet very important. And I'm sure, the customers that were here today have similar customer needs, so that was fantastic. Thank you so much. And
yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And yeah, I want to just extend that invitation for anybody that just wants to discuss what's going on. I think it's important for us as industry peers. There's so much business out there to be had. There's no reason to be not discussing, ways that we can work to understand some of the opportunities that we all run into.
Amen.
Thanks.
Yep, and again, my contact information, if you want more information on CRM Lite or Salesforce integrations, pricing, help, anything, let me know. We'll get either myself or a team member to help you. And stay tuned for next month's exciting webinar, our ongoing educational webinar series. We'll have another rockstar Mindfire customer to help you better understand the challenges of growing your business and meeting customer needs. Thanks for joining us, and have a great afternoon. See you all later. Bye-bye.
Thanks.